line item 6321, you have a sum of 67 million, and on page 228, you then have a sum of 35 million, which gives you a total of about $100 million. And the question that my honorable member and friend has been asking is, there's a reduction essentially of about $100 million. Can the honorable minister explain why has there been a reduction of that sum? And in particular, since I've gone through the profile information, in particular, why is it that the Sports Development Fund deserves no money for the year, and also the Castellani House deserves less money for the year?
Mr. Chair, in response to the question, the Sports Development Fund, given that this is 4 months we're talking, as against 12 months?
No, it's a total aggregate. It's a total aggregate. It's the whole period.
Okay, that information will be provided at a later time.
Mr. Speaker, with due respect to the honourable member, there is on page 529, which relates to subventions to local organizations, 6321, 67 million. The honourable member prior to me asked for the disbursements and whether they were dispersed. There's a list here under culture on page 529 of a number of entities that are listed here. The other honourable member asked questions to do with the actual figures and the reductions. Madam Minister, with due respect, under Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, between the months of January and August 2015, did Castellani receive the $24.1 million? Did the National Trust retrieve the $34.4 million? Did the Rupununi Weavers Society receive $150? Did the Sports and Art Development Fund receive $7,581,000? Theatre Guild of Guyana, $750,000. So that's listed there. Did they receive that money or not? And if not, as there's a new ministry created, or now Culture, Youth and Sports absorbed into Ministry of Education, will this money still be disbursed to these entities, although they're still under the in a new ministry with 4 months left? This is $67 million. We'd like to know the status of it, Madam.
Mr. Chair, all those monies will be disbursed this year with the exception of the Sports and Development Fund. And to the second part of the question, yes, those will continue with the new merger.
But I didn't get an answer to the question that I asked, Mr. Chairman, in relation to why is it in particular the Castellani House has received less money than the year before, considering this is a current expenditure.
Mr. Chair, that is the provision requested, and we believe that that is adequate.
Could the honourable member advise us on the Sports and Art Development Fund? This is distinct from the National Sports Commission allocation. One is under a board, one is an administrative body. So that the figure was reduced. Was there any particular reason why it was reduced in the 8-month period and so forth? The other thing, Madam Minister, I'm really concerned about is that Castellani House and the National Trust, for example, are extraordinarily, particularly Castellani House, extraordinarily important to this country. It is our national art gallery. It's a heritage building, and yes, all these are things. And so, are you saying that Castellani House has survived for 8 months of this year with no subvention whatsoever? How did they pay the salaries of their staff? Because they don't make revenue. They're not a revenue-generating body. How did they pay their telephone, their electricity by paper? And so I really don't believe, I'm not being disrespectful, madam, but I really cannot comprehend how you could say, or anyone could say, that Kaslani is awaiting this budget before it gets any money for 2015. They have staff, they have bills, and they don't make money. So could you please help me?
I thank the honourable member.
Mr. Chair, the subvention has been provided and those payments were made.
Well, that's not what you said a moment ago. I mean,
I said with the exception of the sports and art development fund. I said with the exception of the sports and art development fund, all the other that you requested were paid.
well,
Pardon?
They will be. You said they will be.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy
So they
that
will be.
the honourable minister has been able to clarify that, because that's not what was said a moment ago. But in my final set of questions in relation to this category, can the honourable minister please provide a breakdown of the $71 million that was spent on line item 6291, national and other events, and the 6302, training including scholarships? What's the nature and program profile, persons, etc., that would have benefited from that sum as well?
Mr. Chair, in response to the first question, that would have catered for the matrimony activity. And there was also events hosted at the National Stadium and the music school.
Sorry,
I shall now put the question.
No,
Is the minister- is the honourable
Speaker, I
minister
appeal to
finished?
you. The culture area
Is the honourable
is a
minister
very
finished?
important area for many of us, and it doesn't
Is
get
the
enough
honourable minister
attention.
finished providing the answers she was giving?
Mr. Chair, I wish to add, in addition, with regards to the allocation for training and scholarship, this would have catered for music development. We conducted coaching and evaluation, and we also did some training for the synthetic track. I'm finished, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Honourable Member, Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, under one of the concerns, Madam Minister, is that, and why we are, I guess, trying to position certain things is because when we come to the ministry, new ministry, is to make sure that what was under the Ministry of Culture is preserved in a number of ways. Under buildings, maintenance of buildings, 6242, there's 13 million for last year and 1.7 million for this year. I am very aware that the culture, it has a number of buildings, not only heritage buildings, but also National Cultural Center, the dance school, the music school, the museums, archives. There are about 14 or more buildings and bodies that come under this head. Could you say, with this paltry $1.7 million, what was done for any of the 14 buildings in the Ministry of Culture? I know.
Mr. Chair, for this amount, 3 buildings were maintained. That would have been the National Culture Center, the National School of Dance, and the Music School.
Sorry?
And also the Borough School of Arts, sorry, the 4 buildings that were maintained. The details of that I can provide to you subsequently.
follow-up question to the one that the Honourable Minister has provided a moment ago in relation to the national and other events. The event at the stadium, can you please state what it was, when was it, and what sum was allocated?
Excuse me, what line item are you referring to?
There's only one, national and other events.
I thought I concluded on that one.
No, it was a follow-up question.
Mr. Chair, there were two events at the National Stadium. That would have been the inauguration and the T20.
Can you please provide the Honorable House with the costings for both events?
I'll be happy to provide that type of information subsequently.
And whether the, sorry, Mr. Chair, is my final question, and whether the statement initially provided by the government that no government sums or monies were provided for the inauguration, whether that was not true, and the sums that were paid by the ministry.
The honourable member is bordering on abusing the privilege of speaking. There must be a time when we should call it quits and let us concentrate on the issue at hand.
This is certainly my last question.
The speaker does not find it a matter for amusement.
No, this is very serious matters. There was a statement made
The honourable member will listen to me and then he will speak
Yes, sir.
afterwards. If you have a question to put, please put it.
That is the question, sir. Well, number one is the actual sums spent on the specific events that you mentioned, and whether it was indeed a true representation of